So we live in a time in our world where quiet can feel completely unnatural. You know, our lives, we are surrounded by so many things, so many sources of noise in a way. Music, YouTube, the news, just many, many things in our lives. Podcasts and texts, all these things that are just sources of noise. And then even when we're tired, even when we're exhausted after the day, oftentimes what we do is we reach for more noise. You know, we reach for more noise that will ultimately not bring quiet, that will just bring more noise into our lives. And then we wonder why we can feel depleted, you know, how we can feel tired, how we can feel this heaviness upon us. But the thing about God is that he does not compete with the noise. He doesn't demand our attention. He doesn't force himself upon us, but he comes to us quietly. And that's exactly what's happening in the gospel today. Jesus, he quietly invites Martha into something deeper, and he quietly invites us as well. He says, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and you're worried about many things. There is need of only one thing." So the word in the Greek that is used for anxious and worried is more so like distracted. And I think Father Peter's talked about this, but the idea of distraction. And in the Greek, it's saying, you know how like tires, they're meant to gain traction, but when they don't have traction, they're just spinning, you know, and they're just moving without going anywhere. And that's what can happen in our lives too. We can feel like we're going a million miles an hour, but we can feel like just stuck spiritually. And we can just feel like we're just spinning our wheels, going and going and into the future. But the present, we just, find like an absence or something. We can feel like we're moving, but we're not going anywhere. Like we're just spinning our wheels. We're distracted. We aren't gaining traction. And so this is what Jesus is telling Martha. Martha, this is what is happening in your life. You're distracted. You're moving, you're going and going, but you're not having traction. And chances are we can also fall into this as well. And we have so many more reasons nowadays with all of our technology, all of our stuff. And we can feel like in our world, we can feel so often the need just to be busy. The need to be busy doing things. Even good things, we can feel like we just need to go, do. And you know, even sometimes our prayer can feel like times of disquiet, you know, because it's like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to listen to this podcast, I've got to read all this stuff, I have to do all these things. And sometimes we forget to just simply listen and just be with God. And sometimes I can fall into this too. I'm, preparing the homilies and you're like, what's something I can find, and just like, you can just go, and you're kind of like distracted and you miss. It's all about relationship and being in the quiet presence of God. And then in the gospel, Mary, she gives us an example of someone who is listening to Jesus. Someone who's open, someone who's reflective, someone who's receptive to what Jesus is saying to her. And Jesus tells her that Mary chose the good portion. The good portion. That doesn't mean the most productive. That doesn't mean the most efficient, but the good portion. Because Jesus, God, knows that we need quiet, we need rest. He knows what we really need. But it's also important to remember that work is not a bad thing, and being busy isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes in our lives, we have no choice. We have kids, we have busy jobs, we have stuff going on, and that's good. Sometimes we can do many things. The problem isn't that we do a lot, but the problem that Jesus is pointing out more so is that sometimes we can work with this inner anxiety, with this restlessness, with this going and going mentality. It's not the work that pulls us away from Jesus, it's our interior disposition, our lives, the noise that we carry within us. That's the thing that can pull us away. Like, it's completely possible to go to work and to be with our families and to remember once in a while, oh yeah, God is here. Like, God is present with me. And like those little reminders, even if we just do it every couple hours, they can just stabilize our days and help us to remember God's constant presence. And so Jesus, he's pointing out the interior anxiety within Mary, within Martha, the way that she's just spinning her wheels, the ways that she's going and going without remaining with the Lord in it all. She's letting her interior noise carry her away. And there's been plenty of times when, I have felt that interior anxiety, that distraction in my life. And oftentimes what I turn to is the ever-present consoler, like my cell phone, the world's always constant present source of consolation. And the cell phone, it's always there. It's always offering me something new, always noise, something to draw my attention, my distraction, a source of comfort. But I know, and we all know, that it doesn't lead to real comfort. So often it just adds to the pile of the noise, the disquiet within us, and it just adds to it. It makes me more tired, more distracted, more just unstabilized, And instead of turning to the world's comforter, the cell phone, the source of peace that just leaves me more tired and depleted, there's been times in my life where I turn to the true comforter, the true source of peace, God, the Holy Spirit, the one who is always with us. And when I do this, this is when I gain what I'm actually looking for, when I'm actually seeking. Not something that just drains me, but something that fills me, that restores me. And because the Spirit of God, it fills us, it restores us, it heals us, and it speaks truth into our hearts, into our lives. It reminds me, no, you aren't what you do. You are my son. You are loved, and I treasure you. And it reminds me who he is and who I am, and it's just stabilizing instead of my phone that's, just pulling me in, distracting, and, leading me away. Because God, he is the ultimate source of peace. And when we listen to God, he will speak. He will speak. And if we listen in the quiet, it becomes easier and easier to hear the voice of God. Even if it's just for, 5 minutes, even 3 minutes, of just, all right, I'm going to just sit in here in quiet, and I'm going to listen to the Lord. All of us have that time, 3-5 minutes, whatever stage we are in life. Sometimes we might even have more. Maybe some of us could even do a whole holy hour and just a week, once a week, and just give an entire hour to God for him to speak and for us to listen. because Jesus calls, but we need to listen to hear him. And he calls our name, Martha, Martha, Sean, Sean, and he's calling us not to scold us, not to just add another thing onto our plate, not to, add more to our lives, but to bring us rest, to remind us that he is here and that we are invited to listen to him. And so after this Mass, the ever constant consoler of the world is still going to be there. It's still going to be there. The noise of the world, it's still going to be there. It's not going to slow down. But our disposition towards it, we can remember that the source of peace, the source of rest, is not in this, is not in, filling our lives with noise, but it's in Jesus. It's in God. He is the one that can truly satisfy. And so listen to the one who can satisfy us. Listen to the Lord. And you don't need a perfect prayer life to begin, but just giving the Lord time to say, Jesus, I'm listening. Jesus, speak to me. And the peace that comes, maybe not the first time you do it, but over time, it starts to change things. And so this week, let's not just spin our wheels in distraction, but let's seek rest in the Lord. Seek rest in God, the true comforter, the true source of peace, because he is the one who can speak in that still, small, quiet voice. But if we listen, he will speak to us and set our souls in deeper peace.